June 23, 1942. The Caucasus Front, 2:47 a.m. The German encampment below was quiet, too quiet. Hauptmann Klaus Weber had learned to fear the silence. He sat upright in his tent, cigarette trembling between his fingers, listening. The other officers thought he was paranoid. 3 weeks on the Eastern Front had taught them all to sleep through artillery fire, through Katyusha rockets, through everything. But not through this. Then he heard it, or rather he felt it. A whisper in the darkness, the faintest rush of wind like fabric tearing the night sky. No engine roar, no warning, just swoosh. Rouse, rouse. Weber screamed, diving from his cot. The first bomb hit the ammunition depot. The explosion turned night into noon. The second bomb landed on the fuel trucks. Then the third, fourth, fifth, each one landing with impossible precision. Men stumbled from their tents in underwear, grabbing rifles, firing blindly into the empty sky. But there was nothing to shoot at, just darkness, just wind, just death. One young soldier, his face blackened with soot, grabbed Weber's arm. "Herr Hauptmann, what is attacking us? Where are the planes?" Weber's voice was hollow. "Nachthexen," he whispered, "the night witches." High above, invisible against the stars, Lieutenant Najda Popova pulled her biplane into a climbing turn. Wind screamed through the struts of her Polikarpov Po-2. At 19 years old, she had just dropped 100 kilograms of bombs with nothing but a map, a stopwatch, and her instincts. Her cockpit was an open frame of wood and canvas. Her instruments were a compass that glowed faintly in the dark. Her bomber was so primitive that the Germans refused to believe it could even reach their lines. That was exactly why it worked. Behind her in the rear cockpit, her navigator Katia was already plotting the next target. "Nadia, rail junction, 4 kilometers northeast, 2 more runs before dawn." Nadia grinned, her face numb from the -30-degree wind. "Then we better hurry." She killed the engine. The biplane became a glider, a ghost, a whisper. In the sudden silence, she could hear her own heartbeat. Below, German soldiers fired their rifles at sounds, at shadows, at nothing. Their tracer rounds drew beautiful arcs through the darkness, all of them missing by hundreds of meters. The Po-2 descended in absolute silence. Only when she was 700 meters above the target did Nadia restart the engine, drop her bombs, and vanish back into the night. By the time the Germans heard the engine sputter to life, the bombs were already falling. Swoosh. Boom, gone. "Witches," the German soldiers whispered. "They're witches." 18 months earlier, Moscow, October 1941. The war was going catastrophically. Hitler's armies had smashed through Soviet defenses like a hammer through glass. Leningrad was encircled. Kiev had fallen. Nazi tanks were within sight of the Kremlin's spires. Stalin's generals spoke in whispers about evacuation, about surrender, about the unthinkable. In a cramped office in the Commissariat of Defense, a middle-aged woman with steel-gray hair sat across from 3 skeptical generals. Her name was Marina Raskova, and she was about to propose something insane. "We form 3 regiments," she said calmly. "All women, pilots, navigators, mechanics, armorers, every position." The generals stared. One of them, a veteran of the revolution, laughed bitterly. "Comrade Raskova, we are losing this war. We don't have time for publicity stunts." "This is not a stunt. Women can fly, women can fight, and right now you need every pilot you can get." Another general leaned forward. "Even if we agreed, what would they fly? We barely have enough aircraft for the men." Raskova didn't blink. "Give us the Po-2s, the crop dusters." The training planes gathering dust at the academies. "Crop dusters, against the Luftwaffe, you're proposing suicide." "I'm proposing survival. The Po-2 is slow, yes, made of plywood and canvas. But it's also nearly impossible to shoot down. It flies below radar. It's too slow for fighters to engage without stalling, and at night, in capable hands, it becomes invisible. Silence filled the room. Then the oldest general spoke, his voice heavy. "How many women are willing to die for this experiment?" Raskova smiled. "I've received over 2,000 applications. They're waiting outside." The doors opened. The generals saw them. University students, factory workers, farm girls, some were 17. Some had never seen an airplane up close. But every single one had volunteered, knowing they would likely never come home. One girl, barely 5 feet tall, stepped forward. Her name was Lydia Litviak. She would become history's first female fighter ace with 12 confirmed kills. She was 21 years old. Stalin approved the plan the next day. His order was simple. "Let them fly, let them fight. If they succeed, good. If they fail," he shrugged, "we're dying anyway." By December, the 588th Night Bomber Regiment was formed. 40 planes, 80 women, average age 20. Their commanding officer was Major Yevdokia Bershinskaya, a veteran pilot who would lead them until war's end. They were given no parachutes. The planes fly too low. You'd hit the ground before the chute opened. No radios, too heavy. And no defensive weapons. You won't be there long enough to need them. Just plywood, canvas, and bombs. The male pilots called them Stalin's toy soldiers. The mechanics said their planes would never survive the front. Even the other women pilots assigned to fighters and dive bombers looked at them with pity. But Nadezhda Popova, standing beside her Po on a frozen airfield, felt only excitement. "They think we're going to die," she told Katia. Her navigator grinned. "Then let's make sure we haunt them first." May 15th, 1942, somewhere over the Donbass, midnight. The German 3rd Panzer Division had punched through Soviet lines and was racing toward the Volga. If they secured the river crossings, the entire southern front would collapse. Air support was impossible. Soviet fighters couldn't operate at night, and dive bombers would be torn apart by anti-aircraft fire. But the night witches didn't need daylight. They didn't need escorts. They just needed darkness. 12 Po-2s lifted off from a makeshift airstrip at 11:47 p.m. No lights, no formation. Each plane flew alone, navigating by stars and memory. Nadezhda Popova's hands were so cold she could barely feel the stick. At 8,000 feet, the temperature was 40 below zero. Ice formed on her goggles. Her breath crystallized instantly. "Target ahead," Katia called from behind. "I see their campfires." Nadia descended. The German camp spread below like a constellation. Hundreds of tanks, thousands of soldiers, supply trucks lined up in perfect rows. She circled once, studying the pattern. Then she cut the engine. The sudden silence was terrifying. Wind whistled through the wing struts. The biplane glided downward, a falling leaf, completely inaudible from the ground. German soldiers laughed around their fires, drinking looted vodka, confident in their safety. At 700 meters, Nadia restarted the engine and released both bombs in one motion. The explosion ripped through a fuel depot. Secondary explosions followed as ammunition cooked off. Men scattered like ants. Anti-aircraft guns swiveled wildly, firing at empty sky. Nadia was already gone, climbing back into the darkness. "Again," she said. They made 8 runs that night, each time descending in silence, each time vanishing before the Germans could react. By dawn, the 3rd Panzer Division had lost 37 vehicles, 2 ammunition dumps, and any illusion of safety behind their own lines. The division commander sent an urgent message to headquarters. "Under sustained night attack by unknown Soviet aircraft. Losses mounting. Request immediate fighter support." But fighters couldn't hunt ghosts. The Po-2s flew too low, too slow, too quiet. Radar couldn't track them. Searchlights couldn't find them. The Luftwaffe's vaunted Messerschmitts would stall trying to match their crawling speed. The only defense was prayer, and prayers don't stop bombs. By August 1942, German soldiers on the Eastern Front had stopped sleeping at night. The psychological impact of the night witches was devastating. You couldn't see them. You couldn't hear them until it was too late. You couldn't shoot them down, and they came, every single night. Some crews flew 15 missions in one night, 15 separate bombing runs, each one requiring a landing, refueling, and rearming by hand in complete darkness. Ground crews worked with such efficiency that a Po-2 could be turned around in 6 minutes. 6 minutes from touchdown to takeoff. The Germans started calling anyone who shot down a Nachthex a hero. They offered medals, promotions, leave. One fighter pilot claimed he'd destroyed one. The wreckage showed it had been hit 847 times by ground fire but was still flying when it finally crashed. The pilot was found in the wreckage. Her name was Olga Sanfirova. She was 23. She had flown over 800 missions. But the Germans never stopped fearing them. POW interrogations revealed that Wehrmacht soldiers believed the night witches were injected with drugs that let them see in the dark, that they were criminals released from the gulag, that they weren't human at all. The truth was simpler and more terrifying. They were just women, daughters, sisters, students, farm girls who learned to kill with precision and vanish into darkness. Nadezhda Popova became a legend. By war's end, she would fly 852 combat missions, more than any other female pilot in history. She was shot down multiple times, wounded, decorated 18 times, and she never stopped flying. One night in 1943, her plane took 18 direct hits from anti-aircraft fire. The canvas wings shredded. The engine coughed smoke. Her navigator, Katia, was hit in the leg, bleeding badly. "Turn back." Katia screamed. Nadia looked at the target, a German headquarters, maps, officers, intelligence. She cut the engine and glided in. The bomb hit perfectly. The building exploded. Documents flew into the air like burning snow. German colonels died in their sleep. Nadia crash-landed in a field 3 kilometers away. She carried Katia on her back for 2 hours before reaching Soviet lines. Both survived. When asked why she didn't turn back, Nadia shrugged. Because they were there, and we were angry. Not all of them came home. By 1943, the 588th Regiment had lost 32 pilots, 32 women who glided into silence and never returned. No parachutes, no escape, just fire, impact, and darkness. Yevgenia Rudneva, a brilliant astronomer before the war, was killed by anti-aircraft fire over Poland. She was navigating her pilot through a storm when a shell struck their plane. They spun into the ground at 200 kilometers per hour. She was 24. Polina Gelman, who flew 860 missions, watched her best friend die beside her in formation. A random shot from the ground hit the fuel tank. The Po-2 became a fireball, a meteor falling into German lines. Polina kept flying. What else could she do? Lydia Litviak, the fighter ace, disappeared over Mia's front in August 1943. She was 21. Her body wasn't found for 40 years, but they never stopped, even when the losses mounted, even when the odds became impossible, because for these women, flying wasn't just a duty, it was defiance. Every bomb dropped was revenge for their burning cities. Every German soldier who died was payment for their brothers, fathers, sons who would never come home. The night witches didn't fight for Stalin. They fought because their homeland was dying and someone had to make the enemy pay. Major Bershinskaya, their commander, kept a photograph of every woman lost. By war's end, that collection would break her heart. But during the war, she kept it in her breast pocket, close to her heart, a reminder that courage has a price. "They died doing what they chose," she once said. "Not what they were forced into. That matters." May 4th, 1945. Berlin, 3 days before surrender. The war was ending. Soviet artillery pounded the Reich Chancellery. Hitler was dead. The Reich was ashes. But the night witches still flew. Nejda Popova's final mission was to bomb German positions holding a bridge over the Elbe. One last target, one last flight. Then the war would be over. She circled in darkness, watching tracer fire arc lazily upward. Below, German soldiers fought with the desperation of the doomed. Above, Soviet fighter planes roared toward the final victory. But Nadia flew alone, as always, silent, invisible, a ghost hunting the last remnants of the nightmare. She cut her engine at 1,000 meters. The glide was perfect, the target clear, her hands steady on the bomb release. Swoosh, the bridge exploded. Steel and concrete tumbled into the river. German defenders scattered. The path to Berlin was open. Nadia restarted the engine and climbed into the dawn. The sky was turning pink. For the first time in 4 years, she could see the horizon without smoke. When she landed, ground crews were crying. Someone had a bottle of vodka. Someone else had a radio playing Tchaikovsky. The war was over. Nadia climbed out of her Po-2 and touched the canvas wings. Bullet holes, patch marks, burned scars. This machine had carried her through 852 missions. Through fire, fear, and darkness, it had never let her down. "Thank you," she whispered. By war's end, the 588th Night Bomber Regiment had flown over 30,000 combat missions, dropped 23,000 tons of bombs, destroyed countless enemy positions, vehicles, and soldiers. 23 pilots were awarded Hero of the Soviet Union, the highest honor possible. But numbers don't capture what they achieved. They didn't just fight a war, they shattered every assumption about what women could do. In a conflict that killed 27 million Soviets, these women proved that courage isn't about strength or gender. It's about showing up night after night into the darkness that might kill you. After the war, Nejda Popova became a historian. She married a pilot, had children, lived to be 91, but she never forgot the nights she spent as a ghost. "People ask if I was scared," she said in 2008. Of course I was scared, every single time, but fear is just another enemy, and we learn to kill our enemies. The Germans who survived never forgot them either. Decades after the war, Wehrmacht veterans would wake in the night, certain they heard something in the darkness. A whisper, a swoosh. Just the wind, they told themselves, just the wind. But sometimes, late at night, when the world is quiet and the stars are bright, you can almost hear them. The night witches, still flying, still hunting. Ghosts of girls who refused to die quietly. Swoosh. The 588th Night Bomber Regiment was the most decorated female unit in Soviet aviation history. 32 women died in combat. 23 received the Hero of the Soviet Union Medal. Their Po-2 biplanes, made of plywood and canvas, terrorized the Wehrmacht from 1940 to 1945. The youngest Night Witch was 17. The oldest flew missions into her 40s. Hitler personally ordered that any captured Night Witch be executed immediately. None were ever captured. In 1945, German POWs were asked what they feared most on the Eastern Front. More than tanks. More than artillery, they feared the silence before the bombs fell.